Welcome to Pound for Pound. I'm Nick.
And I'm Darren.
And thank you for joining us. We've been gone a minute. We've been working on a few things, but since you guys are all back, we have a very special treat for you. On the line, we have Greg Sharp from the Xplode Fight Series. Greg, how are you, sir?
I'm great, guys. How are you?
We're doing great. We're really excited for Saturday. There's some big up-and-coming fighters on your card. First, I want to throw out there where it's at. It's at the San Pasqual Indian Reservation. It's on private land, though. March 24, that's Saturday, 16760 Paradise Valley Road, Valley Center, California. Greg, I'm really excited to talk to you. First off, I'd like to just ask you, what's it like promoting fights in the state of California?
Well, it's a tricky business. It's one that being up on the Indian Reservation gives us a little bit more flexibility in what we do. Sure. But we're in the haven of MMA, right. San Diego, Southern California.
Huge.
I mean, MMA is like Starbucks. There's an MMA gym or team almost on every corner.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it.
I've never heard anyone say that. That's a great point.
Hard to argue with.
But they're all tough kids. That's the great thing. I mean, you walk around to camp, and it's like, okay, well, you're a tough kid. Do you want to fight this tough kid? Yeah, I want to fight that kid.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, it's like nobody backs down.
Yeah, no, it's crazy because I always think about that too. The sport is evolving so much and so much time is going by. You're almost getting into the next generation of fighter where you're going to have people that have been rolling and training since they were 2 and 3 years old. I mean, that's the next breed of fighter coming up. I mean, it's just that hot out there.
And it's a bigger dimension than that. In the fact that MMA is becoming more affordable to the average fighter, and that's a key component. Which, back in the early days of MMA, if you want to take a jiu-jitsu class or join a jiu-jitsu program, well, that costs you $150 somewhere a month at some dojo. And then if you wanted to take a Muay Thai class, well, there was a Muay Thai gym for $95. And if you wanted to take boxing, you had to pay multiple components. But now gyms all over have multifaceted programs that even the blue collar and the lower income families can afford to get their kids into. So it's and those are tough kids. I mean, being an affluent sport through the early 2000s here, it's changing. It certainly has evolved.
Constantly evolving. I've always said about the fight business that I think one of the reasons it's so marketable is that it's universally understood. There's no lines, there's no fences. It doesn't matter what language you speak. Everybody understands what's trying to be accomplished out there, and it's just marketable all over the world. Would you agree?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I've even this week alone, I've gotten calls from 2 Brazilian camps, camp out in Germany, 3 Mexico camps.
Wow.
And they're number one, they want to fight American fighters. We have, in the U.S., we have really a reputation of being able to train great fighters and multi-rounded fighters. And a lot of these camps now see that, and they want to get their guys involved, and they're begging. I mean, I've had camps, consistently pepper me on Facebook and emails and phone calls saying, hey, we'll fly our fighters up, we'll fight your guys. Can we stay at your gym? Can we train with you guys?
Incredible.
It's great for me as a promoter because, heck, I mean, I have an unlimited supply of talent and resources in terms of athletes, and if you have that, then it's hard not to be successful.
Yeah,
no kidding. Especially in Southern California. I mean, it's just such a hotbed for talent down here in Southern California. I mean, it seems like every time you turn around, there's another great fighter, or there's another good gym, or somebody's branching out of this gym. I mean, it's like an endless supply to pick from. It seems like.
Yeah, and you're right. And what's happening now is it's really the martial arts phenomenon in itself. Again, as these great fighters come up, they see that they've got their own talents and they want to start their own school, and they've got their own notoriety. And it's a snowball. It's growing. And where it stops, who knows? But at this point, the funny thing is we're just really at the beginning stages. It's going to grow for the next couple of decades and beyond, without a doubt.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt about that. While we have you on the line, I actually wanted to ask you about a couple of the fights. David Salas versus Jason Micknook. They're 2 up-and-coming fighters. Both have a lot of exciting finishes on their record so far. I'm actually really excited to see that. Yeah,
David is a fighter, kind of I don't want to call him unique. He's a tough kid. He's a ground and pounder. He fights out of my gym. I have the Xplode MMA team and hence Xplode Fight Series. But David's trained out of my gym up in Escondido now for several years. Just a tough, well-rounded kid. He's got a good ground and pound. He's got good jits. He can stand up comfortably. He's 4-1, and he's marketable. He's a kid that's got a good look to him, and really within the next couple of fights, if he continues to progress, he's going to be a strike force or a entry-level UFC fighter, without a doubt.
Nice.
Jason has had a little bit of ups and downs, but is bouncing back. And actually, I saw Jason over the last couple of weeks. He looks tough. I mean, it's hard to be partial to my fighter when I'm watching this young man, tighten himself up, and he's training up with the compound, and some guys up there, Sean Loeffler, who's a UFC fighter, and Tony Lopez, who's a KOTC fighter. He's got a lot of experience around him. So these two kids are going to go to war, and it's going to make for an exciting fight.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt about that. I'm really excited to see that. You also have a great middleweight fight. Felipe Fogelin, he comes out of King's MMA camp. That's actually a really good camp. He has a lot of great subs. He's coming off a razor-close split decision loss versus Carlos Barash, associated with Vitor Belfort. So he's got to be able to bang, and he's got to be halfway decent jiu-jitsu game.
Yeah, that's going to be a real technical fight, and quite frankly. For the casual viewer, they may look at it and say, "Wow, what am I watching?" But for the real technical viewer, that's going to be a compelling matchup. Now, each of these fighters, and it's funny, each of the matches that really headline our card will tell the tale with the next level of UFC Strikeforce fighters. I mean, they're pulling from this area. So these guys, they've got a lot vested in these fights because one loss in the eyes of the UFC means that you've got to win 4 to 5 more times before we're going to look at you again, on this level. So these guys are out for broke. They know that their careers and the time they put in the gym it all pays off when they step in the cage.
Fair point.
I think that's why you see a lot of fighters that are devastated after a loss too. I mean, especially at this level, you think about how much goes into the each fight and training camp and everything. I mean, it's easy to see why somebody would be devastated after a loss for sure.
I mean, it's very competitive. I think they have 200 athletes right now in the UFC, and Strikeforce, and at some juncture, you are fighting to be one of the elite, and a loss puts you behind the curve. No matter where you're fighting. I mean, you could be fighting in San Diego, you could be fighting in Houston, you could be fighting in Miami, but you lose. It pops up on SureDog, and Joe Silva and Sean Shelby, I'm sure, are looking at SureDog before they even take your call, and they see a loss. You're on the bottom of the pile, and that pile could be thousands deep.
Yeah, no question about it. That's also the thing too. We were talking earlier about just how there's so much talent, and this sport truly is blowing up. I mean, the fact of the matter is there's only a handful of major pay-per-view type organizations, and there's so many fighters, and there's a lot of guys that just don't get the exposure that they deserve, for the talents that they really bring to the cage. And I think Xplode's Fight Series is just a perfect example of that, and a great place to showcase really good talent out there.
Well, and we're unique in the fact that as a young organization, we just picked up the Fight Now TV agreement. We've partnered up with Fight Network, which is huge for us. I mean, we're really in our infant stages, and having Fight Network see the value of what we're doing and the names we're putting out there to fight, they were very apt to take a chance with us as an organization when there's a lot of organizations out there. There's 300 plus promotions, and of those 300 plus promotions, there's maybe 12 of them, me included now, that actually have a visible opportunity for a national audience. And, it's, believe me when I say, if you think fighting in the cage is competitive, fighting as a promoter is competitive.
That's an excellent point.
You certainly want to be in the elite 12 if you can be.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
No, that's phenomenal. Greg, really quick, before we let you go, I just wanted to ask you about one more fight. Danny Martinez, he's 15-4. He's got a lot of wins. He's been in there with Mark Hominick, Joseph Benavidez. I mean, they didn't put that guy away. To my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, he's never been finished, has he?
I don't believe he has.
I don't think he has either.
And I'll tell you what, Danny's a kid that's, wow, talk about an exciting, focused fighter. He's a monster. At 125, he really is a man amongst boys. And you know, he fought in the WEC. You know, the UFC Strikeforce haven't had a 125 division until, you know, now that they're starting to develop it. And, you know, it's only a matter of time until he's, you know, he's the elite.
He's on his way.
He's the exception. We're going to have our second fight with him, and I would be very surprised if he fights for us one more time, only because I would think that somebody within the upper echelon is going to grab him and move him up.
No doubt. So. He's also fighting a tough guy in Edward Cesares.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's a guy that's going to bang with Danny, and it's going to be. But then again, you know, it's hard finding 125s out there. So we've got two compelling fighters that can go at it. And you know, for Ed, if he wins, and everybody who enters the cage has what we call a puncher's chance. But if Ed could win, I mean, think of the feather in the cap that he has, and then, you know, if even if Ed loses, I mean, when you fight the caliber of fighter, and it's seen on your record, it's only going to improve you, and that's important for him as well. But I see Danny as a major threat, short term and long term, and you know, I don't predict any fights, and I certainly am not going to predict any fights on this coming card. But I would say that Danny has at least experience on his side, if not a real focused attitude to win this match.
Fantastic. Should be interesting. Everybody, once again, San Pasqual Indian Reservation. It's private land. Xplode Fight Series, March 24, Saturday, 16760 Paradise Valley Road, Valley Center, California. Greg, thank you so much for your time, and we really look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Guys, anytime. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys as well.
Best of luck to you. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. And we'll go right into the next part of our show. A few things going on in the world of MMA since we've last been here. First, I would say Ultimate Fighter Live. Are you disappointed with that? Are you excited about it? What are your thoughts?
Well, we've had a couple of different shows. As far as the premiere of it, I should say, I thought it was a bit stretched out. I was not surprised to see that the ratings were bad. Just because to the average fan, obviously we're not average, we're hardcore, we're going to watch it anyway.
No matter what.
But I could see the average fan turning the TV off because, to be quite honest, it was kind of boring. You know, there was no commentary, and I just thought it dragged on. But as far as the actual show and now that we're getting into the show, I love it.
Get a bit of a different look, though. I mean, they're shooting a little different. I mean, you definitely get a sense of a different production team, and they're giving you a different
I'm just
look.
talking about I was just basically talking about the 3.5 hours of fighting to get into the house.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was a bit stretched out.
Yeah.
I thought it was, you know, I could see where the average fan or the novice fan would just turn it off.
Sure.
But like I said, now that we're into the shows and into the house, I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. For the casual fan, 3.5 hours of nonstop fights, it does seem a bit redundant after about 9 or 10 straight.
And for the most part, with no commentary and you know, dudes you never really heard of.
Only so much you can do. You know, now that you mention it that way, I wouldn't be surprised that, you know, maybe they trim it down, or you'd probably never see something like that again.
You know what? It's funny. As I was watching, I'm thinking to myself, you know, I'm interested to see the ratings, and when they came out, that it was a little lower than expected. I wasn't surprised, but now that we're into the house and into everything, I'm a huge fan of the show.
Me too. Like I said, they put it out there, and I buy it every
a
time.
little bummed because the last show, you know, one thing I do when I'm watching these is I always like to pick who I think is going to win the whole show before, you know, just after watching his first fight, and I actually picked Darren Cruikshank to win the whole thing, and so to see him get caught with that knee is
disheartening.
Yeah,
especially if you put. What are you going to do?
What can you do?
Put it out there.
You just got to keep on going to work, and you know, hopefully he'll get a shot.
Yeah, we'll see. Bellator 61. Brian Rogers, man, stunning KO. What do you make of that?
You know what? When I watched it live, it didn't even look like the knee caught him. You know, I actually thought he was still wobbly from the right hand there. I think it was a right hand that landed, and he was kind of wobbly, and then he went in with the knee. But then when you watch it in super slow motion, you know, the knee clipped his chin, and man, it was just it was nice.
No, it was amazing. I'm actually, you know, like I said, we're fight junkies. You know, we're the hardcore fan.
Right.
Pretty much anybody watching the show has got to be a hardcore MMA fan.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if you are hardcore like that, you're excited to see Bellator. I mean, it's kind of tough.
I love the promotion. I can't get enough of it. So
no, I can't either. The only thing that's disheartening, I actually was really looking forward to seeing the War Machine on there. Man. It's brutal, man.
Yeah, that was too bad, especially since we got a chance to meet him and everything.
No
but you know what? He'll be back.
Yeah,
he'll be back.
No doubt about that. Dana White, he said UFC in Japan. There's a lot of requests and a lot of people throwing pride out there. I think there's a certain expectation with a lot of fans that you'd see some sort of pride something in there somewhere in the mix.
Why?
But Dana White says there are no more pride events.
Why? Why would he need to do that?
Well, right off the bat, I would say the people that are saying that were the people back in the day, with Crow Cop and Fedor and the UFC is this, those are those people.
Yeah.
Those are the only people who want to see pride. That's it.
I hear you. You know what? And to give the credit to those the OG Pride nut huggers, because you know what, they've latched on to Pride and they're not letting go, man. They are not letting go, and it's still to this day. So, hey, more power to you, baby.
Well, Dana White, he'd like to introduce you to a brick wall.
Yeah.
And that's that. I don't know. It had good showmanship, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's look what the UFC's doing, man.
Look how exciting when the events do go to Japan, and when we do get these cards in Japan. It's even that much more exciting.
There is a reason the UFC bought Pride, and it's because they had the money, and that was based on, putting on a better show overall.
Which they always have done.
And they always
Even
did.
Back when they were competing against each other, the UFC was always a better show, in my opinion.
Always did. I thought on a side note it would be interesting to mention that MMA management. I mean, everybody's always so critical of the judging, and there's a lot of things that still have yet to kind of evolve to the point where they should be. But I found it kind of crazy that there's no credentials necessary currently to represent talent out there in any organization. That's what the report around town is, and I'm just it's crazy. You don't even think about how easy that is, and it just anybody could really just step in there. I mean, I just find that amazing. I mean, we're talking about a sport who is trying to rival football, baseball, major sports, and last I checked, I mean, if you're a agent in football or baseball, I mean, you can't just represent talent just because that's the thing to do,
Yeah.
It's a bit more of a process. I thought that was weird. Quentin Rampage Jackson, your boy. Man, it seems like every day you see
something with him,
Always something. Like one day he'll say, UFC owes him a thank you, and he did this and he did that. Then the next day, oh, I was wrong. I should have done this. And, what he said today, or what I guess his agent said, was that his client's desire was to just be the most marketable fighter ever. And I found that kind of ironic, considering the guy doesn't want to fight wrestlers anymore. He doesn't want to fight anybody that will take
He wants to handpick his opponent.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
How it's a contradiction. And
Quentin Rampage, let's just turn the page with this guy.
That's
one thing that I took to heart was our last show when you said, it was just a short long ago, you were held at gunpoint, getting pulled out of your monster truck, and Dana White was there to save you.
That was your thank you.
And there's your thank you. And the fact that the UFC is still having you fight, even though in my opinion you're irrelevant, there's your thank you.
He's getting pissed off pay-per-view.
And now he's getting pissed off at reporters. He's getting pissed off at guys for speaking their minds. Other fighters for speaking their minds. I think the pre-fight show he got all pissed off at Rich Franklin.
Yeah.
Did you catch that? I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So now you're going to start calling out Rich Franklin because they're just giving their opinion. Like, do you have
call it Joe Rogan?
Yeah, Joe Rogan. Yeah. It's like, dude. I mean. Show a little bit of stones here. I mean, come on. I mean, people are going to. You're a professional athlete. Okay, you're in the limelight. People are going to give their opinions on you, just like I'm doing here. I mean,
right.
It's just. I mean, I love you, Quentin, but it's so far past your time to turn the page. I wouldn't be disappointed if I never saw him fight again. I mean, just hang it up.
It's that he's one of the last remaining guys from that particular era, and by era I mean in the fight business, it's like 4 or 5 years. That's an era.
And it's got to be tough. It's got to be tough for he's been one of the biggest draws. Everywhere he's been.
Right.
Especially still in Japan, he's proven that he's a great draw there still.
Right.
The fans love him, so it had to be a little tough for him to lose there.
Sure.
And it's going to kind of be hard to see lesser named guys like a Ryan Bader. They're starting to pass him by, and it's got to be tough for a guy that's always held the limelight.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of the other fighters that names that come to mind is Tito, and it's crazy. I think about that for a second. I think it's not that guys like Tito and Rampage, in some cases they didn't evolve with the sport. Like a guy like Tito Ortiz, I think sometimes your body just physically you can't get the same response from your body at 35. Between 35 and 40 is a guy like Bader who's in his mid-20s. Sometimes it's more of it's not just a question of talent.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I mean, you can only have so many wars. Look at the guys like Nogueira. I mean, there's so many so many guys that have so many miles on them, and they're not even that old, you know?
It's funny you mentioned Tito, because those two guys are kind of, it's a perfect example of Tito and Quentin are kind of in the same spots of their career, but when you got one guy like Tito who's handling it so much better.
Well, Tito's also evolved. You see that guy throwing up triangles. He's working off his back.
Yeah.
He's at least showing you different things. Rampage is the same Rampage that knocked out Chuck Liddell 4 years ago, you know?
Great point.
No difference. Next announcement that I actually saw this week, I thought this would be a really good fight, and I've been waiting to see Mike Thomas Brown, Daniel Pineda. They're going to collide on May 26th. I actually think that's a great matchup. What do you think?
It is a great matchup.
Haven't seen Brown in a while.
Yeah, you know, it's been almost, I can't remember exactly, it's like 7 or 8 months by the time he's fighting, and, you know, it's going to be exciting. You know, I'll tell you what, Daniel Pineda, he's no joke. The guy's, I think he's on a 6 or 7 fight win streak. He's finished everybody in that win streak. So, I don't know. He hasn't really fought he's definitely taken a step up, but I think he's going to win this fight.
Yeah, no, I think he will too. And
Mike Brown's going to be the name, put the feather in his cap.
Yeah, that's a big feather. He's no joke. Lorenzo Fertitta, they're really pushing hard with the commissions in New York, and they're I've never seen anything quite like it. I mean, anywhere really. I mean, the amount of things that can, you know, make it on a docket in New York, and MMA isn't one of them. You know, it's just like, man, really, how in the world does that not make it on the docket?
What the F is wrong with New York?
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me?
It's one of the most violent towns there is.
Come on.
And a little UFC can't seem to get sanctioned around there. I mean, God.
You know, there's some very loyal fans out there in New York. Bloodstain Lane comes to mind. You need to go lock yourself on a building, Bloodstain. And don't leave until they do something, until they sanction UFC or MMA in New York. This is crazy.
It should be up on a billboard somewhere, a crane or something.
Yeah, I mean, let's pull our money together and you know, throw eggs at the right person. Let's do something. We got to do something. It's crazy.
It's crazy, man. I really hope they can put it together. Fertitta promises like a UFC 100 style card, just something way over the top.
Man.
For that reason alone, I want to see him get sanctioned in there. You know what's crazy is a lot of people say, man, you try not to pay too much attention to forums, Twitter, this and that, but the run around Twitter is just that everybody thinks Tim Boesch is one fight away from getting a title shot against the Spider, which I think is crazy because Boesch, he was getting dominated in just his last fight.
Right.
He came out, he had a hell of a third round, he did everything that Dana White said any fighter that's down 2-0 should do, and let's go for broke. That's what he did, but make no mistake about it, there's no way he's one fight away from
no chance.
There's none. And even if he wins his next fight, I don't think that even if he would have to win it in impressive fashion, and I still don't think he's one fight away.
No. Couple things I want to say about this is Yushin Okami, in order to get a title, I mean, he was getting smashed for 2 rounds, okay, and he came out and he won the fight. You can't take that away from him. He definitely won that fight, but he's got no significant wins in middleweight really under his belt to classify a title shot. And I don't even think we have to worry about that because my new boy, as of 3 months ago, Michael Bisping, is going to smack up that booty. So I don't really think we got to worry about that.
Yep.
But if for some reason he beats Bisping, by no stretch of the imagination is he ready to face Anderson Silva. Are you kidding?
It's crazy. That's insane. Speaking of Anderson Silva, it was announced today that they are going to have him, Chael Sonnen too, in an 80,000-seat soccer stadium. And
standing room only, I bet.
Oh, there's no question. And a couple of questions come to mind. Is number one, I mean, I don't even know how they're going to. The logistics of that alone, I can't wait to see. I mean, it's going to dwarf the show at Skydome or whatever it was, the Rogers Center.
The Rogers Center.
I can't wait to see that for one. But number two, how is that? That's got to be a safety issue for Chael Sonnen. How are they going to get that? How are they going to get around that?
Yeah, that's a good point. You've seen some of these security guards. I mean,
these are the same people that have moats around soccer fields. You know what I mean?
So they can't come on. Yeah.
You know, flaming bottles being hurt. I mean, I'm like, how are they going to get Sonnen out of there? I mean, all the metal detectors in the world aren't going to save that guy from. It's going to be interesting.
And at the same time, I can't wait to see that.
Then you got the fight on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention all the pressers and all the weigh-in and everything else. Then we get to actually see him fight.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
It's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see the build-up to that fight. It's going to be everything I think everybody's hoping it to be, and then some. Last but not least, you see a lot of UFC programming on Fuel TV, and one of the things I actually like, I'm not a Pride hater at all. There's a lot of great fighters that came from Pride, and I love watching Best of Pride. And the other night, I'm watching, they had a replay of Fedor and Crow Cop, and I know those are 2 of your all-time favorites, no doubt. But
I got nothing against either one.
But you know what? The funny thing is, like, I'm sitting there watching, and I'm wondering, what happened to guys that that were on top of their game in Pride. And you look at that match by itself, Cro Cop and Fedor. You just look at Cro Cop, for example. He's on the bottom. He's throwing up his hips. He's throwing up legs. He's showing aggression. I mean, it's the exact opposite of the Cro Cop you've seen in the UFC. It wasn't a guy that was just looking to counterpunch, and this guy was aggressive. And I'm wondering, what do you think happened to guys like that when they crossed over? What happened?
I don't know. I wish I had that. It's like the magic riddle there. I wish I had the potion to figure that out, because he's 4-6 in the UFC. I think was ended up being his overall record.
Brutal.
And do you remember the excitement when he came over to fight Eddie Sanchez? Do you remember that build-up?
There was never a bigger acquisition.
Dude, I had goosebumps when he came out.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, oh, finally he's here. Finally he's here. And, you know, and then Eddie Sanchez just kind of ran around very scared. But, and then he slowly started to fight it more and more, and it just became kind of whatever. He's just another heavyweight in the UFC. You see that with everybody. Big Nog, 4-3. Okay, he's got a winning record, but that's not very impressive.
Yeah.
Gomi, 2-3, and then Kid Yamamoto, although he was never a Pride guy, he's like the dream guy. I don't know.
Whatever you want to call it.
I mean, I think he's still looking for his first UFC win.
I believe you're right.
So I don't know. I wish I had the answer to that. You know,
it's crazy. I really don't. Like, I mean, you look at a guy like Cro Cop. He was so aggressive, you know. And then he comes over to the UFC, and slowly but surely, you talk about his first couple fights. It's like you see less leg kicks, and then the last couple fights we've seen a guy that's just looking to land one big left, counter punch. I mean, there's no aggression, and then you watch Best of Pride, and you're like, these are like watching two different people.
Yeah, it's two completely different fighters. It's almost like the UFC is getting these guys a couple years too late.
I think so. Some of those guys.
And you know what? The same thing would happen to Fedor, although other promotions have given us, saved us the time. He's losing in smaller promotions, but
sure.
You know, it's can't take anything away from what these guys mean to MMA. I mean, they're big pieces of it, but you cannot say any of them have a successful UFC career.
Do you think your personal opinion? A lot of people like to throw around steroids, and not to diminish anything anybody's ever done, but do you think there's do you think anybody ever in Pride was guilty of that?
You can't. You know what? And you'd be ignorant to not even consider that, because I mean, at the end of the day, we are talking professional athletes here.
Yeah.
And of course, that's got to be something that runs through your mind. Whether or not I personally think that's a factor, I mean, I always like to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. So many people are so quick to jump the gun on who is and isn't doing steroids that I like to give them the benefit of the doubt. But certainly an interesting angle.
Yeah, it's not just a Pride thing, though. I mean, they found people in the UFC have done steroids and get suspended. But what I'm saying is that I don't know what the sanctioning bodies are over there back then, what they are today over here.
Right.
I mean, they're two totally different animals, and you'd be hard pressed to think that something like, I don't know, I'm not saying anybody did it, but I'm saying you'd probably be a little more likely to get by with it over there.
That's a great point.
It doesn't explain all the guys switching over and some, but then people get older, people come over with there's so many factors, but I guess that's just one of those things we'll never find out.
Yeah.
Really, everybody's got a different opinion on that.
No, but I mean, it seems like Vanderlei is really the only one that came over from Pride and still was putting on the exciting performances that we were used to over in Pride. I mean, granted he hasn't had the win-loss record he did over in Pride, but the dude still goes out there and fights the exact same way he was in Pride. He's just older and
he's had to take a punch a few times, a little more, but
so it took me a little while. But
Vanderlei's on a card. I don't care you're going to get your money's worth, and that was one of the guys that came over and just really lived up to the hype, and the excitement, and was able to put butts in seats. On that note, you got anybody on Twitter you want to give a shout out to?
No.
Not a damn person. I'm gonna throw out a couple. A couple guys have been talked to all day, all week really. Andre Benke and Pete at Longhorns MMA. What's up, guys? Look forward to hearing from you some more, man. You guys are awesome. And on that note, where can we find you, buddy?
Real quick, I wanted to throw out, a lot of you probably watching the show recorded, but we stream this live every Wednesday at 7 p.m.
It's 7 now, right?
Yeah, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Feel free to go to pfpsports.com/live every Wednesday night at 7. We'd love for you to watch live. Call in. You can give us a call at 619 area code 387-3452. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
And other than that, I'm on Twitter, at Darren PFP Sports.
And I'm at PFP Sports. And tonight I wanted to also mention that a sponsor of our show tonight is HBO True Blood. A couple people I know actually bought a few cases. Whether you like it or you don't like it, pour some out, throw some Jimmy wine in there, you'll be all right.
The orange drink is fantastic. They sent us another case. I can't drink that stuff fast enough.
Keep rocking it, man.
So go to pfpsports.com/HBO. Get yourself some orange drink.
Hey, real quick, guys. Greg Sharp called in off air, and the fight is actually going to be at 16760 Mountain Valley Road.
Mountain Valley Road. That's correction. You want to say that one more time?
Yeah, it's going to be at 16760 Mountain Valley Road in Valley Center, California.
You can also look on Xplode MMA. They got a really cool poster over there. A lot of good detail over there. Great website. A lot of good fighters, and we're looking forward to seeing that on Saturday.
You know what? For all the local fans, Nick and I will be there. Feel free to come up to us and chat. We'd love to meet some of you guys.
Absolutely. Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Don't be scared, homie.
Don't be scared, homie. On that note, man, we'll catch you next week, and we're also on not Twitter, iTunes.
iTunes, yeah, man. How did we forget that?
iTunes.
Son of a bee. We forgot that. We're on iTunes. Download our podcast, peeps.
You'll go pfpsports.com. You'll see the podcast link up top. Click on that bad boy, and you can put us on your phone, whatever. And we're great for killing hours. Doesn't matter. Do what you gotta do. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Cheers.